Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is your host, TARODCAST, and you are now tuned into TARODCAST. For all of the brand new listeners listening to our show for the very first time, welcome. For all of the returning listeners coming back for another weekly dose of TARODCAST, welcome back. At TARODCAST, you can take everything we say with a grain of salt. We simply just want to add some flavor to your meal. So if we're doing that, then we are doing our job. Today's episode comes hot on the heels of recent events that have literally set the country ablaze, and it also deals with interactions that a certain type of person has with another type of person that looks like me. So without further ado, today's episode topic is Whiteness Weaponized. This is TARODCAST. Let's get it. All right, everyone, welcome and welcome back. This is TARODCAST, and again, I'm your host, TARODCAST. Now, I just want to say thank you to everyone that allowed us to take a week off just to recalibrate and get some ideas written out so that way we can continue to deliver high quality content and conversation topics that hopefully will inspire conversations between yourself and people you may know, because we really needed this week just to get some ideas ready and to get some things put into place so that way we can continue to deliver the content and the conversation that you all know, love, and support. So today's episode is called Whiteness Weaponized, and this episode is specifically for those who identify as white or Caucasian, whatever the case may be, whatever your genealogy may be, this episode is for you. And so I hope that this episode is able to give you a bit of education. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the experiences I have had when it comes to the way that I have been treated by certain people who identify as white and how they approach me based on the situation. So before we get into that, let's go ahead and take care of our housekeeping duties, because we always take care of our housekeeping duties here at TARODCAST. So if you would like to take our show with you on the go, just know that we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Podchaser, Castbox, Podcast Addict, iHeartRadio, Deezer, and YouTube. TARODCAST is also on Throne. Throne is a free live messaging application that allows us here at TARODCAST to exclusively reach our listeners. Make sure to sign up if you'd like to keep the conversations going after the episode. Also, if you're looking for natural oils for ultimate hydration and care for your hair and skin, hit up The Resilient Lotus at www.theresilientlotus.com. And if you are a lover of authentic chunky salsas, make sure to reach out to Morenita Salsitas. She recently posted a picture of some tacos, and I cannot wait until she adds those to the menu, because that made my stomach jump. I'm like, oh my God, seeing those tacos, I'm getting hungry even now just thinking about it. So make sure to also hit up Morenitas Salsitas if you are looking for some really, really good food made with love. And I also want to say this as well. One of our previous guests, Miss Jackie, she has also recently launched her makeup business, Jazz by Jackie. So if you are looking to have your face completely transformed, make sure to hit up Jazz by Jackie, because she is doing an awesome job. With all the pictures and things that I have seen thus far, she is going to go incredibly far. And so, as always, all this information will be in our episode notes, so make sure to check that out. Now, when it comes to today's episode, Whiteness, Weaponized, I think about the fact that for many years, going back into the times where we as Black people were enslaved here in the United States, I think about the fact that we were looked at as sources of strength. We were looked at as sources of power, but because we were enslaved, we were looked at as property. Now, when it comes to property, many people can look at property in different ways, and you can use property in different ways. And when it comes to my ancestors who were enslaved, they were property to white people who wanted to have free labor in order to advance the productivity and the profitability of their business, which was the cotton plantations and things like that. And so what I think about in this particular vein is the fact that so many of us were used and abused in order to further someone else's goal and further someone else's mission. I was talking with my wife the other day, and she talks about this movie that stars Florence Pugh. And for those of you who do not know who Florence Pugh is, she's a very, very good actor. She starred in Midsummer. She also starred in Fighting with My Family, and those are two of my most favorite movies I've ever seen just in recent times. But there's a movie, and I forget the name, but in this movie, she is a person of privilege who also owns slaves, and she befriends a slave woman, and she falls in love with a slave man, and in doing so, she develops these intimate feelings with these two. But when things happen, when things begin to go awry and they go south, she basically turns them in. Despite the relationship she has with these two individuals, she turns them in and she has them killed, and she's able to retreat back into her whiteness. Despite the relationship she had with these individuals, she has the privilege to retreat back into her whiteness and to basically have these two Black individuals killed. And it turns out she ends up killing someone. Now, I haven't seen the movie. I'm going to watch the movie. I'm not going to watch it because I want to be mad, but I want to watch it because when it comes to the context of how things look in this country, there is a reflection that continues to show itself even in recent times. And so when I think about situations like this, where you have a woman in this particular context who is of status because she owns slaves, or she is the wife to a husband who owns slaves, this puts her in a status where she also has power to do what she wants with whomever she wants. And because of that, she is able to move in a way that many people who look like me can't move because of the time period that we were in. And she is able to establish, and also to break off relationships that she wants to have. And when they pose a threat to her way of life, she's able to say, you know what? With me being who I am, I have all of this, and you are disposable property. And when I think about a situation like this, I'm sure this happened time and time again during the years where slavery was enacted, I think about the fact that many white women looked at us black men as these powerful beings, these incredibly powerful and masculine beings. And of course, there's going to be a sexual attraction when it comes to a being that you look at and you're just like, oh my God, you are everything that I didn't even expect to want, but I want it. I want you, and it's taboo to want you, but that makes it even better. And I look at situations like this, and it's like I know it has happened so many times. Like, I can only imagine that even some of my ancestors were subject to these kind of things. It also makes me think back to the movie Life with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, and the fact that the woman there had a mixed child, and they were going down the line. They had all the prisoners lined up, and they held this baby to each one of their black faces, and they were trying to see who is the father, who is the pappy, who is the masculine energy behind creating this mixed baby with this white woman. And I think about the fact that this type of thing is so common, and it's so prevalent when it comes to white women who look at black men as this source of primal sexual energy, and the fact that they want it and they're able to get it, but when situations go south, they're able to retreat back into their whiteness. They're able to retreat back into their privilege, and they are able to have these black men, these black women, they're able to have them executed in order to maintain their status quo, in order to maintain their peace. And I look at history, and I can only imagine how many times this has actually happened when it comes to our history in this country. And so when I reference these movies, I come from a place of understanding that at this time, people of color, black people, black Americans, African Americans, especially at this time, before we became black Americans, we were still 3/5 of a human being. We weren't 5/5 of a human being. I'm still trying to figure out who actually came up with that mathematical distinction in order to classify humanity. Because when I think about the fact that we were 3/5 of a human, still to this day, that doesn't make sense. How was a human defined in fifths? How? I don't understand the logic behind that. But when it comes to looking at the whiteness, weaponized whiteness, I think about those situations where mixed children were born because white women wanted to be with black men because it was taboo. It was something that sent their blood boiling. It was like, oh my God, it's like things in their body were throbbing because this is not something I should be doing. But I want this man. He is so strong. Look at him. But when it comes to defending that man, you leave him by the wayside. When it comes to defending that woman, you leave her by the wayside because you understand that when it comes to the status quo, that is worth more than the feelings you have for those people who are black. And in turn, you allow them to be killed. I think about people like Emmett Till, who was wrongfully beaten, slaughtered, drowned, because a white woman claims that he whistled at her. And that same woman on her deathbed, she admitted that all of it was a lie. All of it was a lie. And so because she weaponized her whiteness, because she escaped and retreated back into her whiteness, she was able to have this boy killed. And that does not sit well with me, because if anything, history has taught us that here in the United States of America, black people are commoditized. We are objects. We are objects to white people. And because we are objects to white people, they will throw us away whenever they feel the need to. And seeing that transform, seeing that evolve, especially in today's times, like, it has become a lot more sophisticated. It's become a lot more elegant in the way that it's done. But the root of it is still the same. The fascination with black people in general, but the ownership of your own actions being something that a lot of white people want to just not even think about. Not understanding how that proportionately affects our livelihood and our ability to survive in this country where we were not asked to be a part of. That is something that really needs to be talked about. And so with that being said, we are going to expand on that, especially how it affects us in recent times after the break. So I hope you all have your cups of water, glasses of wine, whatever it is you're drinking right now. I hope you have it close by, because like right now at this very moment, this is where you need to go ahead and get hydrated. So we're going to take our first break, get hydrated, and we'll be right back. And we're going to talk about this more in depth. So yeah, have your drink ready, have it close by. I want you to be hydrated right here, right now. This is TARODCAST, and we will be right back. Yo, what's good, everyone? This is your host of TARODCAST, Tarod Rashan, and I just want to welcome you to the commercial break. Now, you already know what time it is. It's hydration time. Get some high-quality H2O in your system now. Got a few things I'd like to go over. First, to all of our new and returning listeners, thank you so much for your ear and your time. To all of our Patreon supporters, I just want you to know that we are not able to do this without your direct support. So the biggest, dopest TARODCAST thank you goes out to you. If you're listening in and you're thinking about becoming part of the TARODCAST Patreon family, we'd love to have you. You can find us at www.patreon.com/TARODCAST. Now on Patreon, we have 3 tiers of support. A $2 tier, a $3 tier, and lastly, a $6 tier. Each tier comes with its own set of unique perks. So if you find one that fits you, sign up. For us, the main thing is keeping our subscription prices affordable. We know that you work hard for your money, and if you choose to support TARODCAST this way, we truly want to make it worth your time. To find out more about our Patreon and the perks with each tier, visit www.patreon.com/TARODCAST. We've got it all laid out for you. Also, we've got a merchandise store. Pick up some tees, hoodies, leggings, and more at forevercertain.redbubble.com. All proceeds go right back into the TARODCAST podcast and allow us to keep making high quality content for people just like you. For our listeners out there who would like to support us in a non-monetary way, we'd love that too. Share our show with people you know. Also, share us on your social media. And if your favorite TARODCAST streaming service allows you to rate and review our show and you're loving what you're hearing, take some time and leave us a 5-star review. Ratings and reviews are what set us apart from other podcasts and also helps us to recommend our podcast to other listeners we otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to reach. Lastly, if you'd like to reach out to us directly, email us at TARODCAST@CRTN-T.com. That's TARODCAST@CRTN-T.com. All of this information can always be found in our episode notes, so make sure to check there if you forget any of the information we just went over. Once again, thank you all so much, and let's get back to the program. All right, y'all. Welcome back to TARODCAST. Again, I'm your host, Tarod Rashan, and I hope that you all were able to get hydrated. We're going to jump right back into the topic of whiteness weaponized and how it has begun to evolve into today's society. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Now, when I think about the identity of whiteness weaponized, I think about those that we have labeled as Karens in society, those who will use their whiteness in order to get over on black people, those who, and this is more so for the white women out there who will use their fragility to persuade those of authority, like the police, when it comes to their interactions with us as Black Americans. Now, one of the most recent cases is Amy Cooper, who was asked by a black cyclist to leash her dog, and the fact that she said that she is going to call the police and tell the police that an African American is threatening her life. Now, I think about that type of situation and I realize just how powerful that type of thing is. And for many Black Americans, the amount of fear that can be instilled in us because a white woman is reaching out to the authorities to communicate an interaction that she, either whether it's real or fabricated, that she believes is happening to her. And we've seen this on plenty of occasions. One video I'm reminded of is a white woman who was calling the police on a family who was having a barbecue in a park. And she just, for whatever reason, believed that they did not need to be there. I'm also reminded of Ahmaud Arbery, may he rest in peace, who was jogging in a neighborhood and he was chased down by white men because they believed he didn't belong there, and he was killed. I'm reminded of George Floyd, who had his knee on, the police officer had his knee on George Floyd's neck, and he was literally adding to the suffocation of this man's life. I haven't watched that video. I cannot bring myself to watch it because it is painful. And for me, and only me, there's only so much pain that I can endure at the hands of weaponized whiteness. And so when I think about these situations, especially in recent times, I think about the fact that as Black Americans, we were brought here not of our own accord. And we were born here into a country that did not see us as people from the get-go. We were the 13th Amendment. 13. There were 12 other amendments that were written into the Constitution before we were thought of as people who also have an equal right and an equal stake in this country. And so just thinking about that, I realized that for us, there are so many things that we naturally have to hurdle over. There are so many things that we have to get past in order to be thought of as an actual citizen, a contributing citizen in this country. Now, as I think about this in my brain here, I see that for many of us, when it comes to the police, when it comes to those who call the police on us, whether we are or we aren't, most times we fit the description, and that description can be as vague as it needs to be, but we fit the description because the person calling in the description can basically make that description anything they want it to be. Any black man that seems intimidating can have their description put out, and because we are the way that we are and we look the way that we look, we can be stopped by the police because we fit the description. Again, going back to the Amy Cooper video, she said, "I will call the police and I will tell them that an African American man is threatening my life." And just understanding how powerful that statement is, it brings to light the fact that we as Black Americans are still looked at as inherently guilty for things that we have no part of. And I want white people out here listening to this episode to realize that when it comes to the police, we are always the criminal. We are always the one in the wrong, because the way that this society is set up, it's geared more towards white people. It's geared more towards preserving whiteness and diminishing blackness. And so when it comes to situations like this, I'm also reminded of a situation that I had this year on Facebook. There was a conversation that I was having, and there was a white woman that came onto my Facebook status, and we were talking about religion, and we were talking about Christianity, and the fact that when it comes to me and my personal beliefs, I don't subscribe to Christianity anymore. And so she was doing her best to try and convince me that this way of thinking is the right way. It's the path that leads to salvation. But during that conversation, there were points that were made that couldn't be justified on her end. And so when the conversation began to go sour, she began to threaten me. She began to tell me that her fiance was a cop and that her fiance has been looking at this entire conversation, and that my Facebook would be hacked, and that my podcast would be flagged because I am spewing rhetoric that doesn't align with her beliefs. And I remember being threatened with jail time. I remember being threatened with reprimand because I, as a black male, was speaking my truth in a way that was it was respectful. But at the same time, as that conversation was going south, she felt threatened. And regardless of whether or not this was a troll, just thinking about this situation and the fact that she was weaponizing her whiteness and using it against me in order to intimidate me and to threaten me on a social media platform, it let me know that this type of belief system, this type of action is still alive and well. And since then, I blocked her because there is no reason why those who do believe in Christianity and those who don't believe in Christianity can't have a civil conversation. But I realized that because I am a black man and because she was a white woman, the moment that she felt threatened, even on a social media platform, she retreated back into her white privilege and threatened to have me taken from my family and put into jail. Now, I'm not going to say that the comments that I made when that conversation went south were correct. But at the same time, I will also proudly say that when it came to defending my stance on the subject, I did that from a place that could have easily brought about a mutual disagreement. Because I feel one way and you feel another. We're both making points. But at the same time, when you, as a white woman, start to formulate in your brain this narrative that you are being attacked when you initiated the confrontation, that is unfair. That right there is whiteness weaponized. And so when I think about this situation, I think about the fact that even me, even someone who has no record with the law whatsoever, could be targeted by someone who feels that their feelings were hurt. And because their feelings were hurt, they want to try and punish me or use their whiteness against me because they know how the law treats people who look like me. I find that to be incredibly absurd. I find that to be incredibly unfair. It is symbolic of this incredibly broken system in this country. And so situations like this, I want all of the listeners who identify as white or Caucasian to understand that this type of thinking is wrong. If you cannot take an honest conversation from somebody who looks like me and you respond with threats of ripping me away from my family, there is something inherently wrong with you. I really want you to understand that. And so we're going to take our last break. I hope that you all are staying hydrated. And when we come back, we're not going to end this on a bad note. We're not. We're going to end this on a note that recognizes those of you who understand the privilege that you have and are casting it by the wayside in order to support us. I want to end on that note. And so make sure you still have your water close by. I want you to stay hydrated during this time because we really need it. We're going to take our break and we're going to come right back. This is TARODCAST. All right, y'all. Welcome back. I hope that you took the time to get hydrated. I'm really big about hydration here. I want everybody to be drinking water and to make sure that your body is getting everything it needs because it's necessary. We need to be able to stay hydrated during these times because that is, if our body is made up of over 70% water, we need to stay hydrated. It's important. But anyway, so again, I wanted to end this podcast on a note where it's not about condemning white people. It's not about looking at every white person as if they don't have a conscience or that they don't have the ability to see when injustices happen. Because there have been some incredibly influential white people in my life who have shaped me into the man that I am, and I am forever thankful of those people for just coming into my life and showing me that what you see is not just a black man. What you see is a whole person with value, with gifts, with intelligence. And you are able to understand and to discern that who I am does not pose this inherent threat to your well-being that a lot of white people think. And so I just want to say in this very moment, thank you for being who you are. I know right now, due to the death of George Floyd, there are protests happening all across the country, even in my own state. There's actually a protest happening later on tonight. And I remember seeing this picture of a line of white women who were basically being human shields to the black American protesters standing behind them. And I saw that, and when I saw it, I saw the solidarity, I saw the understanding, I saw the acknowledgement of us being people. And so I want to give a shout out and thank all of the white people, the white Americans, the Caucasian Americans who see color and understand that that has no place when it comes to determining a person's inherent value. There are a lot of people out here who don't have the capability of understanding this as a concept, who don't have the capability of seeing basic human rights. Because as a people, they have had the rights. When it comes to their interactions with police, they aren't looked at as someone who is inherently in the wrong. But for us Black Americans, we have this fear, this pressure that finds its way into our chest and caves our heart inward whenever we see police lights behind us. Those people who understand that regardless of what we look like, we are still people and we have value. I hate that it even has to be said this way, but at the same time, witnessing this firsthand, seeing the country literally burn because George Floyd was the black straw that broke the camel's back. To be honest, and I even hate to say this, Trayvon Martin shouldn't have happened. But because it happened, he should have been the last one. Rest in peace, Trayvon Martin, and all the people who have come before him and after him. But I want to say to those people out there, those white people out there, I appreciate you for laying down your life alongside of us to make sure that our message is communicated, to make sure that our pain is understood. Those of you who see us as people, you are invaluable. And I appreciate the fact that you support us, the fact that you look at us and you see nothing but beauty because we are human just like you. Thank you. Because when it comes to our pain, it's something that we grow up with generationally and we can't escape it. But you taking the opportunity to just empathize with us and to stand on the front lines with us, that is invaluable. So with this being said, this is not a podcast that is designed to just communicate this hatred or to communicate this animosity, because we are all human. But the fact that when it comes to our history in this country, we as Black Americans were looked at as objects and property and disposable things. That mindset has not changed, and it's become more and more apparent as we continue to progress as a society. And because of this, we deserve to have our voices heard. We deserve to have everything that was taken from us. And so when it comes to the rioting, when it comes to the protesting, this country is just going to have to deal with that, because we have seen and experienced time and time again the weaponization of whiteness. And until we are able to de-weaponize that, I support everyone who is expressing their anger and expressing their pain in a way that causes disruption, in a way that brings attention to the fact that we are in pain, we are suffering, and we have to do so much more in order to succeed and in order to be deemed as worthy when it comes to the status quo. And so for those of you who disagree with me, I'm sorry. You can have your disagreement. That's okay. I'm not going to dispute it. But being a Black man, In this country, there are things that you will never have to deal with. And I hope you understand that and support that. So y'all, that's our episode. You know how to find us. You know how to support us. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review and take the conversation to our throne room. Everything is going to be in the show notes as always. Wherever you are, whomever you are, I always want to encourage you to be more introspective and vulnerable with yourself. Know who you are, trust in who you are, and love who you are. Thank you very much for listening, and make every effort to find and keep your peace. Till next time.